Okay, since they are on recess right now to 8 o'clock, there is something that I found on YouTube that I'm going to go ahead and play. It is, 1 second. Okay, this is a video from disability attorney Walker, not of the Disability Resolution Law Firm. He goes over President Donald Trump's USDA order to cancel state-based food stamp reimbursement and future federal funding of food stamps without congressional approval. Here's what he had to say.
Okay, let's get into this real quick so you guys understand exactly what are the derivations of how Donald Trump is basically canceling a version of food stamps. Now, there's a couple of ways that this is coming down. As you know, the Supreme Court has ruled a 48-hour hold-off on essentially making a decision as to what's supposed to happen. The lower courts at the district court levels.
And just to let you know, I did get his permission to go ahead and stream this. So let's go back into that.
Said you have to go pay all of the food stamps. How dare you? How dare you? Then Trump said, okay, fine. I will take all the contingency funds from 2024, from 2025, and pay them out, right? So he did that, and he's currently doing that. But the bottom line is there's a problem because, yeah, they only had around 65% of the remaining, amount that they need to go ahead and pay out the rest of the benefits. They need 35% more. They need more billions, basically. So as a result of that, what happened was Trump said to the judge, where am I supposed to magically get this money from? Because the money is supposed to be paid for from congressionally approved funds. House and Senate had to already, find the money, put the money aside, vote on it. There it is. So basically that went to the circuit court. Circuit court didn't really give too much action on it. Trump's legal team said, fine, we're going to go ahead and appeal this up to the Supreme Court. Down. It's an official agency release document. I've got it right here. Specifically updated Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program SNAP November benefit issuance, where basically they go ahead and say, hey, look, states, you need to stop paying food stamps. You need to cancel your payments. You need to stop doing future payments because we are not planning to reimburse you. That's cancellation methodology number one. Number two is that we now know that there are not going to be enough benefits basically in reserve to be paid for December. So like while we had some benefits set aside, some money set aside for food stamps for November, we don't have them for December. And so the bottom line is that's up to Congress to go ahead and vote that money through. But as it is right now, Trump's saying, hey, look, December as it is, there's not enough funding, ergo food stamps will be canceled. However, that one's not really on Trump. That one's on more the Democrats and Republicans to go ahead and vote either a continuing resolution to pay for food stamps, which they could do. The Democrats are screaming that the Republicans won't open up the House to do it. The Senate basically won't push through essentially what they want for just opening the government in general. So where we're at is a bunch of rich people that we elected to treat us like shit, actually treating us like shit. So it is working out the way it normally does. So the next thing they have to consider is this. Food stamps are in some degree as a program, as an existence, being canceled in the normal fashion that they were. A lot of people are like, what do you mean? Well, how could this be? Well, that's because the big, beautiful bill put a lot of new requirements on able-bodied individuals, work requirements, and also there are a bunch of individuals who de facto have their benefits canceled. Literally, big, beautiful bill cancels food stamps for millions because of the new requirements for it, which means that as it rolls out for the different states, because remember, there's different timelines on different states with how these restrictions roll out, food stamps for millions of people will be canceled. Like they won't be able to get them going into the future. So what we're looking at is because of the new USDA calculation methodology used for the partial benefit payment, because of the new big, beautiful bill standards that are coming out restricting who can actually get food stamps, a lot of food stamps are being canceled going forward. So those are essentially three ways that basically food stamps are being canceled. Now, part of it's, let's just be fair. Part of it is Trump's fault. Part of it is Schumer's fault. Part of it is Congress's fault. And a little bit of it is also the court's fault. Because, when you look at the end of the day and you look at the judge, you say, okay, we got this little tiny district court judge, low-level judge, right? And they're ruling that Trump has to magically fund a program that, by law has to be funded because of the Anti-Deficiencies Act by Congress to pay for stuff. That judge does not have the authority. I don't care what MSNBC tells you. I don't care what ABC tells you. I don't care what any of those super left-leaning where they tell you the judge can order a unicorn to pop out of the pocket universe. I don't care what they're telling you. And I got a chance to watch some of the news channels, and some of their legal commentary personnel are not actually attorneys. It's just so basically people are getting brought on to legacy news at this point that are not actually attorneys to give commentary on what the legal standards actually are for judges adjudicating claims based on a program that can violate the Anti-Deficiency Act, has some reserved contingency funds, which have already been spent, but there's no additionals left. And they're just basically screaming that Trump has to magically come up with the money. Could Trump come up with the money? Yeah, of course. He's got tariffs coming in, but this counterbalances against his new big promise that, hey, everybody should get a 2,000-ish, tariff boost. And to be honest, that's smart. Trump is starting to realize that the American people are very much like the crowds of the great, ancient Roman amphitheaters where there's people, screaming and excited and happy and wow, look at the events, look at what's going on, stuff like that. He's starting to, I think, understand how politics works a little bit better. Now, it is my opinion that because of these three methodologies in which food stamps are starting to be canceled, you have to kind of focus in on what your future with this program is actually going to be. Hear me out on this. And just for those joining us right now, I'm going to go through a summarized version of the three ways they're being canceled. Number one, Trump is ordered via the USDA, real quick, basically to go ahead for all states to cancel further actions related to disbursement of benefits at the state level because they face never getting paid back. Number two cancellation is that December benefits do not have a contingency fund allowance put in place, which means they will be canceled. There's just no money for them. Number three is that food stamps are being changed to the point where the USDA math for calculation, the big beautiful bill, requirements for able-bodied individuals and some other stuff for immigrants, because remember, they're cutting a lot of immigrants out from being able to tap into food stamps. There's millions of people as the states go on, green light with using the big beautiful, which was passed, details are now going to have to kick a lot of people off of food stamps, millions of people that were on originally. Now, I want to go into something real quick so that you kind of understand the mind of Donald Trump throughout this process, because what I'm worried about is a lot of people don't understand where the president is coming from right now. I know that some of you at this point, and I see Melissa, she said he hasn't canceled them yet. Trump is not in charge of what the Supreme Court is going to do. We already know the one court stated that he has to pay them all out. He then said it is legal impossibility under the Anti-Deficiency Act. Higher court reviewed, didn't really give much response. He appealed to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court took it and said, give us 48 hours to figure out what we're going to do on this. He can't legally pay out the rest, the 35% of the food stamps still due. Okay, I don't know why a lot of people are still reporting basically 50%. They came out with a legal brief submission that said they could pay out to 65%, which they were doing that. A lot of people didn't get full benefits. I understand that. Later tonight, I'm going to do a video of every single state, what people got paid, who got paid what, who didn't get paid, why they didn't get paid. I'm going to go through all those details. But for right now, what you have to understand is that Trump requires Congress to allow the USDA to have the funding to actually pay the rest of the benefits and then pay December. And remember, just to be very clear for a lot of people who are like, living in this world where tomorrow the government hopefully might open. This is the longest closure of the government. Trump is a firm believer that the majority of his voters are not food stamp recipients. Some of them are, but it's a very small percentage. Most of them are Democrats. Some of you will fight me on this, but I don't know why you would. I mean, honestly, impoverished individuals, homeless individuals, they're not capitalism, they're not super into capitalism. That's not their marketplace of ideas. That's not what they do. And they're not trying to figure out how to modify a mortgage and buy some business. And that's not what they do. Okay. They work an hourly. That's the game. That's how it is. People who work hourly at the smallest percentage of income almost always are Democrats. That's how it goes. You have some states like Louisiana that have, some individuals that are very poor that vote for Trump, but in general, middle-class individuals who are earning medium to upper hourly income, they tend to roll with the Republican because they want to keep more of the money that they make. A lot of people who are in the middle class don't understand the poor are restricted in ways that they can achieve things, right? They maybe didn't have the education, the upbringing, the experience, the computer access, the internet access. They don't have all those things. The poor don't understand why the middle class aren't willing to give up more of their money to pay for the poor and stop at having to pay for, some lady who's had 7 kids that basically says the taxpayers have to pay for her children. But, at the same time, a lot of individuals, and I've represented quite a few of them, are living in a generation to generation to generation welfare system. They've never had a job. They're never going to have a job. Their parents didn't have a job. Their parents didn't have a job. And their kids aren't going to have a job. We hope that their kids might have a job. We hope. So my point is, and I understand some of you are going to be livid with this video because you're living in, I don't know, like fairy tale, have a fun ride kind of land where you're just riding a unicorn into the sunset and it's just beautiful. But I need you to understand that what's being reported on the legacy news channels right now is not super duper accurate. And it has me very concerned as an attorney. So I'm going to give you the exact quotes and people will believe whatever the bleep they want to. Their brains are the shittiest fact pattern, the shittiest fact finders. They will believe whatever they want to believe. There's no policing that. People's brains are not good at making facts. They're good at making things that feel like factual information and then, projecting them out and saying, da, 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 da. I'm not in charge of that. Okay. That's not my problem. But I will say this. People need to know what's actually going on with the food stamp situation because, remember, food stamps are life or death. And I get that at the same time. A lot of people are like, well, they're obviously going to have to pay them out. No. Let me explain to you politically the climate that we're living in. We have Schumer, right, who represents like old school swamp. We have Trump, who represents modern day MAGA, right? And these two are battling it out to see who's going to bend a knee, okay? We're in a dangerous spot. Trump is in his final 4 years. The level of care he has for being reelected is not high. It is not high. Schumer is about to be pushed out by super woke younger Democrats. And he just wants to have a nice outro. So his fear of realistically, being able to stand up for the Democratic Party and be strong or be labeled as a wuss by the new modern Democrats, he'd rather not be labeled as the wuss that rolled over for Trump. So you have two massive entities that are not willing to lay down at all. Let's go to Trump's comments here, specifically his quotes. That way you understand exactly where this man is coming from with these details. October 31st, 2025. This was an in-person statement. All the Democrats have to do is say, let's go. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to agree to anything. All they have to do is say the government is open. Quote, SNAP recipients are largely Democrats, so the senators led by Schumer keeping the government shut down are hurting their own people. That was around October 31st when Trump still believed that Democrats were going to march on Schumer's off nonstop and get him to bend a knee, go ahead and give in to what Trump wanted. But to be fair, homeless and low-income people are not, massive achievement machines, right? Some of them are disabled. They can't do that. Some of them, they've never learned how to do that. A lot of people don't understand that. If you've never had the experience of achieving something, the experience of how to complete something that required 20 tasks to get to the end, then you're not going to have that. You have to have a good experience. People that are older than you have to groom you to become who you are. And if you're sitting there like, well, that's ridiculous, just sit back and think of all the people, positive lessons and shit lessons that got you to become the person you are. Because remember, the crap lessons are just as valuable as wow, I feel really great at the end of the day. Okay. October 31st, 2025, quote, Trump says, this was a Truth Social post. Trump says he will look into how he can give SNAP to all Americans who need it following a conflicting court ruling. It will be my honor, he says, to provide the funding, just like I did with military and law enforcement pay. Democrats need to quit this charade when they hurt people for political reasons. If you use SNAP benefits, call the Democrats and let them reopen the government now. Here's crying Chuck Schumer's office number, 202-224-6542. So the bottom line here is that at that point, Trump was in full fire force. He believed that he could convince homeless and low-income Democrats to call Schumer and complain about Schumer not allowing food stamps to be paid. Now, obviously, has that worked? Not at all. Okay. Super liberal media news has made Trump the devil. And then, of course, Schumer is like the guiding light, and Schumer's basically doing this to go ahead and make sure he gets to finish his term without having AOC and other lower level woke Democrats take over his position. November 4th, 2025, Truth Social post from Donald Trump, quote, SNAP benefits, which increased by billions and billions of dollars manyfold during crooked Joe Biden's disastrous term in office, due to the fact that it'll be handed to anyone for the asking, as opposed to just those in need, which is the purpose of SNAP, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up government, which they can easily do and not before. This was the point where Trump, from October 31st to November 4th, was starting to shift reality. He's starting to realize that he's not going to be able to get an army of impoverished and homeless people to hate the Democrats. It's just not going to happen. It's not there. That's not how that whole situation is going to go. What happened here is he's starting to realize that, look, they're not moving in his direction. They're not making Schumer go ahead and pass whatever, changes Trump wants and his clean bill and this and that and bend the knee to him. He's starting to realize that, frustration. Now, just to point out, when COVID hit, a lot of the food stamp ramp up stuff where people were getting tons of food stamps. They're getting food stamps in maximum amount. That was due to COVID, and Trump was part of that. Although obviously the Democrats kind of made him bend a knee during his first 4 years. And I don't know if you guys have studied that, but if you go back to the first 4 years of Trump bent a knee a lot to the Democrats, which is only adding to the fire of why in his second, and obviously you add on top of all the things that have happened to him, them searching his wife's underwear drawer and all that stuff and going through his entire house. It only adds to the emphasis that he has no inclination. He has no reason to go ahead and bend a knee to Schumer. Like, there's nothing. He is a martyr that is on a journey at this point. Okay. Now we get to real quick. Kelly Wolf, thank you for the $4 donation. I super appreciate that. Love it with the little red juice thingy there. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Now I want to go to November 7th. Statement at the American Business Forum in Miami. Quote: "The radical left Democrats are causing millions of Americans who depend on SNAP to go without benefits." He's still holding on to some hope that people will believe that the Democrats are causing the situation. In reality, it's both parties. November 7th, 2025, in-person statement to reporters at the White House, quote: "We have to remain liquid. We can't give everything away based on a number." Quote: "When I was president, the number that you're talking about was a tiny fraction of what it is now. Biden went totally crazy, gave it to anybody that would ask," talking about COVID. But to be fair, COVID was a unique situation. I don't know if I throw complete blame on Biden. Biden, as a fiscal, a financially, smart president, he's probably the worst president we've ever had in the financial stance. And some of you will argue he's created the most jobs in the history of America. And I am not going to go ahead and sip that lemonade that's been jacked up with total BS. But you can keep living in that. Quote: "Gave it to people that were able-bodied, had no problem. Anybody that would ask, this wasn't meant for that. It was meant for people that had no real problem, that had real problems. In many cases, people that were down and out, people that could be saved." Next quote: "It wasn't meant for people that could do whatever they want. The people that say, well, I don't think I'll work. I'll just, collect this money." Now, these are the major quotes that came out from Trump over the past, I would say 10-ish days. And so as a result of that, what it tells us is that Trump holds out for hope that magically the Democrats who are in the impoverished and super poor, landscape of financial earnings will magically start to beat up Schumer. Ain't never going to happen. He'll wake up at some point and realize that in complete and total. It also tells us that at the end of the day, he feels that the food stamps should be paid to some degree, but only to those individuals who have at least attempted to work or were too disabled to not be able to work or have young children. Okay. And even if they have young children, I don't know if you saw the new statutes, that's only for an amount of time while the kids are still young. They get to a certain younger age now than they were before. They expect you to get food stamps to be actually going out and working. Now, I'm going to tell you where I come from. I grew up with a lot of nannies because my parents were always working. Both parents working, a lot of New York, a lot of New Jersey, New York City, major cities, all that stuff. So as a result of that, when I look at this scenario, I know that nannies are very, very expensive. And I know that when kids reach a certain age, now we expect them to be able to drive and do this and do that. I don't know. I'm not totally on board with the new big, beautiful bill changes. I have a lot of complaints about it, but they've already passed into what they're going to be. So maybe we'll do a video on that so you can give your point. Now, over here is the USDA Food and Nutrition Service Updated Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP November Benefits Issuance. At the top of this document is the following statement, which, to be very clear, is not exactly a very neutral standpoint for the USDA to have. Quote: "Senate Democrats have voted 14 times against reopening the government. This compromises not only SNAP, but farm programs, food inspection, animal and plant disease protection, rural development, and protecting federal lands. Senate Democrats are withholding services to the American people in exchange for healthcare for illegals, gender mutilation, and other known leverage points." That is directly at the top of the website for the USDA, where launched recently. I mean, what was this? It was launched on 11/8/25, basically yesterday. So working on Saturday, the new specific update to food stamps. Let's talk about exactly what it has. Let's go through it. That way you have it. All right. Subject: Updated Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, November benefits. Let's go through it. This memorandum, it's about the issuance of benefits. This memorandum is a follow-up to the guidance shared on October 10th, October 24th, November 4th, November 5th, and November 7th, 2025, regarding supplemental nutrition assistance programs, SNAP benefits for November 2025. The U.S. Supreme Court granted the U.S. Department of Agriculture an administrative stay of the orders issued by the District Court of Rhode Island in Rhode Island State Council of Churches et al. V. Rollins, pending any explicit direction to the contrary from Food and Nutrition Services. States, here's the important part, states must transmit full benefit issuances issuance files to EBT processors. In other words, states are being ordered to cancel their paying of benefits from their basically extra money that they're putting on top. They are allowed to transmit the contingency funds, which could be 65% of a benefit or less. But I'll read it to you again. States must not transmit full benefit issuance files to EBT processors. Now, a lot of you don't realize how this works. It's not like some elf in the corner that magically just poof, puts the money on the cards. You have to go ahead and issue basically a file. The file goes to an EBT processor. The EBT processor puts it into their system program as to who's going to get what for what checks. Then they do a distribution of the funds to the actual cards that people are using. Instead, quote again, states must continue to process and load the partial issuance files that reflect the 35% reduction of maximum allotments detailed in the November 5th guidance. And what they're saying here is, hey, states, if you pay extra money, that shit's on you. We're not reimbursing you. That shit is on you. You did that. You lost that money. You paid those people. So you're going to have to figure out the math down the line as to what you already paid them and what they can potentially, what they won't get in the future. So what you have to understand is that some people are already talking about you might get an extra 35%, down the line when the federal government reopens and repays of this or repays of that. That is incorrect. The states are on their own if they're doing this. Now, some of these states have supplementals. They have additional funds that are in the background. They're grabbing them. They're using them, kind of like what our federal government should be doing. But hey, you know how they are. So the point is this. Essentially, the states are like, yeah, we get it. We have extra money. We're going to put it on whatever. Okay. To the extent states sent full SNAP payment files for November 2025, this was unauthorized. Accordingly, states must immediately undo any steps taken to issue full SNAP benefits for November 2025. Please advise the appropriate FNS regional office representative of steps taken to correct any action taken that do not comply with this memorandum. Now, look, you have a couple situations here. Number one, the states could have just done it the way they wanted to do it without having additional funds and said, the federal government, whatever, go figure it out. If that's true, the federal government then is due an overpayment from the recipient who got their full benefits. Think about that for a moment. That person who got their full benefits now owes an overpayment to basically the United States federal government. Just keep that in mind. Now, per 7 CFR 271.7 subsection H, failure to comply with this memorandum may result in USDA taking various actions, including cancellation of the federal share of state administrative costs and holding states liable for any over-issuances that result from the non-compliance. Now, remember, some of these states don't have the money to actually pay back the federal government if 100% of the benefits were paid out. So what's happening here is Trump is basically saying, hey, guess what? Just a heads up. If you issued full 100%, then at the end of the day, you states have to cover it. And if you can't cover it, then we will find a way to basically either pull it from the state or potentially even, if the person received it and spent it and it's gone, the recipient who took it. Next paragraph. We are committed to keeping you as up to date as well and appreciate your continued partnership to serve program beneficiaries across the country. State agencies with questions should contact their FNS regional office representative. Sincerely, Patrick A. Penn, Deputy Undersecretary. All right, so specifically, this is important. This is Food, Nutrition, and Consumer Services, U.S. Department of Agriculture. This is where we are at. Tomorrow, we are going to find out what the Supreme Court wants to do. I mean, technically, we might not because, they're busy, but at the same time, we expect to because this is a massive, massive ticket item when it comes to essentially what will happen with food stamps going forward. So in other words, there's cancellations here. Number one, we know December benefits are canceled unless they reopen the government because there's no additional funds to pay out. Number two, when it comes to these benefits of them, what's going on with them, just to be very clear, Trump has ordered the states to cancel the 100% payments that were going out because either the state has to cover them or the federal government will go after the state, or potentially, it's still up in the air, go after the beneficiary, which is, insane because, food stampers don't have any money. So what are you going to do? You know what I mean? And then the additional thing is that basically food stamps are largely being canceled for a lot of people because of the new big beautiful bill when it comes to able-bodied adults and also those who are immigrants, those who are basically immigrant country. And additionally, they're using new USDA math to calculate how the benefits are paid out, which is cutting a lot of people out that would normally. Final thing, I want to give you a constitutional rights that you have about food stamps before we end this video, because it is crucial for you to have a better understanding and for your brain to be prepared for the BS news that you tend to be getting from the legacy news channels. Before I go into that, one thing, I do have an individual here. I don't do Medicare stuff. If you want to talk about Medicare stuff, essentially what's going on with your Medicare, if you have questions about all the fraud that's going on in the Medicare industry right now with 15 billion in basically fraud, where they're arresting actual doctors and arresting actual back office personnel. If you want to know if your Medicare is safe, if you want to know if you have a great program for your Medicare, give them a call, 339-226-6287, 339-226-6287. They can help you. They're Chapter Medicare. Now let's get to this. There are different levels of rights that you have as an American. Where are food stamps on that list? Well, they're not up here, they're not here, they're not here, but they're like right around down here. They're not very high up. And that's why when a lot of people are like, well, I have a right to my food stamps, you kind of do, but you also kind of don't. Let me go through it. There's constitutional rights, which are the highest level. That's your property rights, okay? That's your life, your liberty. Those are those kinds of rights. Then you have the next one down, fundamental constitutional rights, free speech, right to bear arms, okay? We can think of these as core liberties. Then the next one down, constitutional liberties that are basically, you know, this intermediate rational basis review analysis. That's where you get to like parental rights, right to marry, things like that. Then you get down to statutory entitlement, due process protection. You have property-like interest once granted, but remember, there are restrictions on it. Those are like Social Security benefits. Below those are congressional discretion-based general welfare spending rights. It's the lowest level. You don't have an individual right. You basically have to meet all these requirements. They can change them when they want to. You don't have a super strong, it's a statutory right. It is not a congressional, constitutional-based, full-fledged right, okay? You know, and then below that you have, I mean, I guess it's technically part of it, but below that would be like legislative spending on like events, like a hurricane happens and they throw some money here, this happens, whereas food stamps are more permanent than that, but that's still the same kind of gig. It's the same kind of thing. Technically, you know, some people think that they have a vested interest in a right into this, but they don't. They don't have those things when it comes to food stamps in the same way that you would have a property interest right or a right to live free, a right to bear arms, things like that. All right, we've gone through a lot of stuff. I have to go to my next video where I'm going to be talking about all the phrases, or most of them, that police officers use to get access to your home when they are basically doing an investigation to see if you should be receiving Social Security disability benefits or retirement benefits. Attorney Walter Knott, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it opened your mind to a little bit more of the law of how this whole thing is coming down, because I feel like a lot of people have been pushing a lot of crap that's not actually true. Now you know more of the law. I will do more videos in depth about it. Tonight I will be doing a video about every single state that has essentially paid out potentially too much and the problems that can come from that. Attorney Walter Knott, please remember to like, please remember to subscribe, head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida, throw some stars up there. I always appreciate that on the Google business page. We do go live on Mondays and Thursdays to answer questions for free. And then finally, if you need a 30-minute or 1 hour with me, there is a mini contract below for a private consultation. Other than that, America's Most Viewed, subscribe to, clicked on Disability Attorney. I will catch you in the next video shortly. See you soon. All right, bye-bye, everybody. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Okay, that was quite interesting. So, well, like I say, if you've missed the live stream and you're watching this on the replay, leave your comments in your ideas and comments in the comment section of the video. So we got about a half hour maybe before the Senate comes back. Hopefully it is 8 o'clock and not much later. As we know how it goes, sometimes, you know, it takes a while for them to get there. So I guess for the time being, what can we do for the next 25 minutes? Well, I can just go ahead and sit here, probably play a little bit of music. Here is something that I created that is really starting to hit a lot of likes, and it is called Bureaucratic Blues. So let's go ahead and listen to that.
We've had enough of these lies. Step to the rhythm, let's claim our prize. With the bureaucracy blues, can't break the chains. Fighting over funding, driving us insane. Shutdown's longest moment, we're living in fear. A nation on hold, can you hear the cheer? Hold tight, don't let go. It's time we ignite. Dance through the chaos. It's our turn to fight. The world's watching close. We're the voices of change in the halls of power. Let's rearrange. Sonic energy building. Let's shout it out. Let's make it loud. We won't sit still. We're breaking the shroud. Together we rise in unity, strong with the bureaucracy blues. We're righting the wrong. With the bureaucracy blues, can't break the chains. Fighting over funding, driving us insane. Shutdown's longest moment, we're living in fear. A nation on hold, can you hear the cheer? So dance for the ones who can't even stand. For the future we'll build, let's take a bold stand. The bureaucracy blues, it's a call to be heard. In this longest shutdown, let's spread the word. Let the rhythm shake, let our voices be clear. We'll fight this together, it's a moment right here.
The Senate will come to order. Senator from Kansas.
Mr. President, thank you. Exactly 1 month ago today, I stood on the Senate floor and spoke about the impact that the government shutdown was having on an already troubled aviation system, and that the traveling public was facing tremendous challenges with that shutdown, and I cautioned against prolonging it. Now, 30 days later, we're still here. I was concerned that if the shutdown continued, it can force the closure of parts of the airspace and lead to further reductions in the air traffic controller workforce. Unfortunately, both these concerns have materialized in what has become the longest government shutdown in our nation's history. With 2,300 cancellations and counting today, Sunday, we will go down as one of the worst days in air travel. I've never seen anything good come from a government shutdown. Lapses in federal funding made it harder for families to access SNAP benefits. Head Start programs have been put on pause, and thousands of federal employees are unable to receive a paycheck. This dysfunction is damaging enough to our constituents and economy here at home, but it also sends a dangerous message to the watching world. It demonstrates to our allies that we are an unreliable partner, and it signals to our adversaries that we can't work together to meet even the most fundamental responsibilities of Congress. As this shutdown continues, I want to particularly focus on the impact of this lapse funding is having on the aviation industry. TSA agents and air traffic controllers have had to continue working while missing 2 paychecks. It's a stressful job and one that has grown increasingly more difficult throughout the year. Combine that with uncertainty on how to pay rent, put food on the table, and gas in your car. It is no surprise that we're seeing more and more controllers not show up to work. We are already facing a shortage of controllers, and now we are seeing more having to pick up second jobs to pay the bills, or seeing some quit entirely. Our inaction and our inability to gain consensus are deterring young people interested in futures such as air traffic controllers or other aviation professionals from pursuing those careers. The vulnerabilities in our aviation system has led Secretary Sean Duffy to begin reducing flights by 10% at 40 major airports. Airlines, businesses, and general aviation alike are cutting into their operations to make certain that airspace is as safe as possible. It's critical to know that these impacts are not lopsided on those high-traffic areas. Small and medium hub airports, such as we have in Kansas, that connect to those 40 are experiencing this pain just as much. While this is a painful step, it is necessary for the safety of the traveling public, and I support Secretary Duffy's decision. American Airlines indicated to me they've canceled more than 240 flights yesterday and delayed more than 1,000 flights, impacting more than 150,000 passengers. Airlines for America said that staffing shortages disrupted the flights of more than 4 million passengers from October 1 to November the 7th on their partner airlines. And that was before the mandatory reductions were put in place by the Department of Transportation. We can expect more cuts if we do not reopen the government. We saw how fragile our air system is, and it's the reason I highlight aviation and the consequences of the shutdown tonight. We saw how fragile our air system is earlier this year when a series of failures led to a mid-air collision on January the 29th, which claimed the lives of 67, including those of Kansas. That accident forced Congress and our nation to reckon with an issue that has plagued us for decades. Why have we not effectively modernized our airspace system? Since that crash, steps have been taken to train more controllers and improve the aviation system, including a $12.5 billion investment in modernizing our airspace. But those efforts are becoming much more difficult to accomplish during a shutdown. Unfortunately, the position of the aviation industry it finds itself in today cannot be easily solved, but we cannot even begin to solve it unless we reopen the government. Every day we remain shut down, the fragility of this system intensifies. Thanksgiving is only 18 days away. Purchasing or would have purchased or already purchased tickets to be with their families. If we remain in a shutdown much longer, it will become increasingly difficult for airlines to deliver on their promises to their customers. The circumstances we are in cannot continue. We must reopen the government. I urge my colleagues to pass a clean continuing resolution to reopen government. I'm committed to working with my colleagues, to address the concerns they have and any issues brought forth by the shutdown. We must return to regular order, advance a clean CR and these 3 appropriation bills, and then consider further these issues so that many of us care so deeply about. Our constituents and our nation depend upon us to do so. Mr. President, I note the absence of a quorum.
Understand that the way the process has been developed, it is impossible to delay the votes that are going to take place. And if that were not the case, that is certainly what I would do, because I think it is important that the American people fully understand what is being voted on today. America knows that our current health care system is broken, it is dysfunctional, it is cruel, it is by far the most expensive health care system in the world, and the only healthcare system of any major country that does not guarantee health care to all people as a human right, covering every man, woman, and child. We are unique in that respect. And yet tonight, what this Senate is about to do is make a horrific situation even worse. So let's be clear what this vote is about. If this vote succeeds, over 20 million Americans are going to see at least a doubling in their premiums in the Affordable Care Act. In my state of Vermont and throughout this country.
Majority Leader,
President, I ask unanimous consent the quorum call be suspended.
without objection.
And I ask unanimous consent that the following senators be allowed to speak for up to 5 minutes each. Senator Collins, Senator Schumer, Senator Sanders, and me.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Senator from Maine.
Mr. President, today the Senate Appropriations Committee advanced legislation to reopen government immediately, funding vital programs and resuming pay for federal workers who, for the last 40 days, have had to live with the stress of missed paychecks and not knowing when they would be paid. Under our legislation, all federal employees, including military and Coast Guard, the Capitol Police officers, Border Patrol agents, TSA screeners, air traffic controllers, all will receive their back wages. It is significant that this measure also includes 3 full-year fiscal year 2026 appropriations bills, including the annual agriculture FDA bill, the military construction and Veterans Affairs legislation, very timely given that Veterans Day will soon be upon us, and the legislative branch funding. This 3-bill package, which originally passed the Senate on August 1st with overwhelming bipartisan support, 87 votes in 2 cases, 81 in another, will support our veterans, our troops, our farmers, and rural communities. Of note, this package will provide full-year funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, and the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children, known as WIC. One of the most unfortunate and shameful consequences of the shutdown has been that these vital nutrition programs were in jeopardy for our most vulnerable families, including 170,000 Mainers who rely on the SNAP program. Other programs will be funded through January 30th, while the Senate and House continue our work on the remainder of the year-long appropriations bills. For example, funding for important programs like Head Start and such as the Low-Income Heating Assistance Program will now be restored. I look to voting for this legislation and ending the unnecessary harm to the security of our families and our nations. We must begin to act tonight. We must not delay any longer. Finally, Mr. President, I want to thank the many members on both sides of the aisle, Committee and the Senate leadership who have worked especially hard to bring this package together. And I would be remiss if I did not also thank our staff. My staff missed an entire night's sleep to get this package together and get the job done. Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I want to particularly thank the members of the Appropriations Committee, including the 3 who served as the subcommittee chairs, Senator Bozeman, Senator Hoeven, and Senator Mullen. I want to thank Senator Britt, who did an extraordinary amount of work, Lisa Murkowski, Mike Rounds, Jerry Moran, Sherry Moore Capito, Sidney Hyde-Smith, Deb Fisher. There's so many who worked so hard on this package. I want to thank each and every one of them. Let's get the job done, and let's do it fast. Thank you, Mr. President. In my list, Senator Hoeven was a rock star, so I want to make sure that I mentioned him. Thank you.
Senator from Vermont.
I understand that the way the process has been developed, it is impossible to delay the votes that are going to take place. And if that were not the case, that is certainly what I would do, because I think it is important that the American people fully understand what is being voted on today. Everybody in America knows that our current health care system is broken, it is dysfunctional, it is cruel, it is by far the most expensive health care system in the world, and the only health care system of any major country that does not guarantee health care to all people as a human right, covering every man, woman, and child. We are unique in that respect. And yet tonight, what this Senate is about to do is make a horrific situation even worse. So let's be clear what this vote is about. If this vote succeeds, over 20 million Americans are going to see at least a doubling in their premiums in the Affordable Care Act. In my state of Vermont and throughout this, for certain groups of people, it will be a tripling and a quadrupling of their premiums. There are people who will now be paying 50% of their limited incomes for health care. Does anybody in the world think that makes sense? And if this resolution is passed tonight, we are on a pathway to throw 15 million Americans off of Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. 15 million. Our job is to create universal health care, guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child, not throw 15 million people off the health care they have, low-income and working-class people. And my friends, know what you are voting on. Studies are out there that when you throw 15 million people off of health care, some 50,000 of our fellow Americans will die unnecessarily every single year. Anyone think that's funny? Something to laugh at? Something to just go past? I don't. 50,000 Americans die unnecessarily. Now, I know resolution that the majority leader is going to say, well, Democrats can put together their own bill, and it will come to the floor here in the Senate for a vote. As everybody here knows, that is a totally meaningless gesture. You can get 100 votes here in the Senate. Won't mean anything because the House is not going to take it up, and the President of the United States certainly will not sign it. So, Mr. President, I hope that anybody here who is thinking of voting for this reconsiders, goes back home and talks to their constituents and asks them what it will mean if their health care premiums are doubled or tripled. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Democratic leader.
Mr. President, America is in the midst of a Republican-made health care crisis, worse than anything the American people have seen in decades. Republicans have spent the past 10 months dismantling the health care system, skyrocketing costs, and making every day harder for American families. Because of Republicans, Americans are going to suffer immensely as this health care crisis gets worse. Democrats have been fighting to end this crisis over and over again. Democrats have wanted to lower costs, but Republicans fought us every step of the way. We gave Republicans not one, not two, but 3 chances this year to extend the ACA premium tax credits. Republicans said no every time. On Friday, we offered Republicans a compromise, a proposal that would extend tax credits for a year and open up the government at the same time. They once again said no. And when they said no on our compromise, they showed that they are against any health care reform. Instead, they passed the biggest health care cuts in our nation's history just to give tax breaks to billionaires, and even then, they weren't satisfied with merely closing hospitals and community health clinics. They callously did nothing to deal with the looming crisis of ACA credits. Premiums will spike by thousands of dollars a month. Millions will lose insurance. Democrats have sounded the alarm. We have demanded for months to meet with the Republican leadership. But Republican leaders refuse to even discuss the issue, let alone negotiate it. We've asked them to meet in the summer and throughout the shutdown. To this day, Republicans still say no. We asked President Trump to step in and meet with us to deliver lower health care for Americans, and instead, Donald Trump has taken the American people hostage, from cutting off food aid to hungry families and vets and seniors and kids, to manufacturing flight cancellations, to cutting off home heating aid, while he builds a billion-dollar ballroom with gold-plated toilets. Therefore, I must vote no. This health care crisis is so severe, so urgent, so devastating for families back home that I cannot in good faith support this CR that fails to address the health care crisis. But however this vote turns out, this fight will and must continue. Democrats must fight because of millions of families will lose health care coverage. We must fight because children who are dying of cancer health care coverage. We must fight because a senior citizen cannot afford to pay $25,000 a year just for health insurance. We must fight to keep millions from financial ruin. And make no mistake about it, the American people know who is inflicting this health care trauma on them: Donald Trump and the Republicans. Americans will remember Republican intransigence every time they make a sky-high payment on health insurance. So we are going to fight legislatively, fight back home, fight in the courts, and bring this fight in the elections. Health care costs made a major impact on the 2025 election, and they will certainly have an even greater impact on the 2026 election. So in conclusion, the contrast between the two parties is crystal clear. Republicans are the party hell-bent on taking people's health care away, all to bow to the billionaire elite and special interests. Democrats are united as the party of lower health care costs and improving our health care system. We will not give up this fight. We will deliver for the American people. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, after 40 long days, I'm hopeful that we can finally bring this shutdown to an end. And I don't need to go over all the reasons why it's imperative that we get the government open as soon as possible. From the truly precarious situation we are in with regard to air travel, the fact that our staffs have been working without pay for a full 40 days now, all of us, Republicans and Democrats who support this bill, know that the time to act is now. And so in just a few minutes, I will call up the vehicle for a clean continuing resolution packaged with 3 bipartisan year-long appropriations bills: agricultural appropriations, military construction, VA appropriations, and legislative branch appropriations. These bills will fund SNAP for the entire fiscal year. They will fund WIC for the entire fiscal year. And they will fund our veterans for the entire fiscal year. After 40 days of uncertainty, I'm profoundly glad to be able to announce that nutrition programs, our veterans, and other critical priorities will have their full-year funding. And my goal is to quickly move to other full-year appropriations bills. As I've said many times, I firmly believe that the way to fund the government is by passing appropriations bills through regular order, a process that gives senators from both parties the fullest chance to make their voices heard. Mr. President, I also want to mention health care. There's been a lot of talk over the last several weeks on both sides of the aisle about the health care crisis in this country. And I'm thankful to be able to say that we have senators, both Democrat and Republican, who are eager to get to work to address that crisis in a bipartisan way. These senators are not interested in political games. They're interested in finding real ways to address health care costs for American families. We also have a president who is willing to sit down and get to work on this issue. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what solutions might be brought forward. Regardless, as I have said for weeks to my Democrat friends, I will schedule a vote on their proposal, and I've committed to having that vote no later than the second week in December. Mr. President, again, I am optimistic that after almost 6 weeks of this shutdown, we'll finally be able to end it. I will call up that bill in a matter of minutes, and I look forward to passing the clean continuing resolution and appropriations bill package in the very near future. Now, Mr. President, I move to proceed to the motion to reconsider the cloture vote on October 16th on the motion to proceed to H.R. 5371.
The question's on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to.
Mr. President, I move to reconsider the cloture vote on the motion to proceed to H.R. 5371.
The question's on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion's agreed to. The clerk will report the motion to invoke cloture.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the motion to proceed to Calendar 168, H.R. 5371, an act making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes.
Under the previous order, the mandatory quorum call under Rule 22 has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that the debate on the motion to proceed to H.R. 5371, an act making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes, shall be brought to a close upon reconsideration? The yeas and nays are mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Blackburn. Mrs. Blackburn. Mr. Blumenthal. Ms. Rochester. Mr. Booker. Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman. I am. Thank you. I got you. Gotcha. Mrs. Britt. Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell. Mrs. Capito. Mr. Cassidy. Ms. Collins. Mr. Coons. Mr. Cornyn. Ms. Cortez Masto. Mr. Cotton. Mr. Kramer. Mr. Crapo. I got him. Mr. Cotton. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Curtis. Mr. Daines. Ms. Duckworth. Mr. Durbin. Ms. Ernst. Mr. Fetterman. Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Hughes, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick. Mr. Merkley. Mr. Moran. Mr. Marino. Mr. Mullen. Ms. Murkowski. Mr. Murphy. Mrs. Murray. Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Padilla. Paul. Mr. Peters. Mr. Reed. Mr. Ricketts. Mr. Risch. Ms. Rosen. Mr. Rounds. Mr. Sanders. Schatz. Mr. Schiff. Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Schumer. Mr. Scott of Florida. Mr. Scott of South Carolina. Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Sheehy. Ms. Slotkin. Ms. Smith. Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Thune. Mr. Tillis. Mr. Tuberville. Mr. Van Hollen. Warner. Ms. Warren. Mr. Welch. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden. Senators voting in the affirmative. Barrasso. Blackburn. Bozeman. Britt. Budd. Capito. Cassidy. Collins. Cotton. Kramer. Cruz. Curtis. Daines. Durbin. Fisher. Graham. Haggerty. Hoven. Husted. Hyde-Smith. Kane. Kennedy. King. Lankford. Lummis. Marshall. McCormick. Moody. Moran. Marino. Mullen. Murkowski. Ricketts. Rounds. Schmidt. Sheehy. Sullivan. Thune. Tuberville. Wicker. And Young. Senators voting in the negative. Baldwin. Bennett. Cantwell. Duckworth. Hirono. Kelly. Kim. Markey. Padilla. Paul. Reed. Sanders. Warner. And Welch. Mr. Hickenlooper, no. Mr. Banks, aye. Mr. Schatz, no. Ms. Klobuchar, no. Mr. Merkley, no. Ms. Blunt Rochester, no. Mrs. Murray, no. Mr. Wyden, no. Mr. Van Hollen, no. Ms. Hassan, aye. Mr. Crapo, aye. Mr. Gallego, no. Mr. Schiff, no. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, aye. Mr. Tillis, aye. Mr. Justice, aye. Ms. Cortez Masto, aye. Mrs. Shaheen, aye. Mr. Lujan, no. Mr. Heinrich, no. Ms. Smith, no. Ms. Rosen, Ms. Alsobrooks, no. Ms. Warren, no. Mr. Murphy, no. Mr. McConnell, aye. Mr. Whitehouse, no. Mr. Fetterman, aye. Mr. Warnock, no. Mr. Risch, aye. Mr. Blumenthal, no. Mr. Hawley, aye. Ms. Ernst, aye. Mr. Johnson, aye. Mr. Lee, aye. Mr. Scott of Florida, aye.
Okay, so while we're waiting here, there's been a couple ayes and yays, and but they're still voting on this. So I don't want to leave a dead stream here. So this was posted earlier this morning. We're supposed to be getting a tariff. It's called a tariff stipend, or I can't think of it right now. I had it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyways, we're supposed to be getting a $2,000 it's like a stimulus. It's from the tariffs. This is what he had said. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price, 401,000, our highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt, $37 trillion. Record investments in the USA. Plants and factories going up all over the place. There's a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. And there is a guy that I follow on YouTube. It is the station name is called Blind to Billionaire. And like he said, this video here was posted about 8 hours ago, and it just came up on my feed. I watched it, and it's pretty interesting. Okay, here we go.
I want to bring this to your attention right here, right now, and explain exactly what the president just said in a Truth Social post literally moments ago, as he is now calling on a $2,000+ stimulus check or dividend to literally everybody except for high-income people. Now, I'm going to pull it up on my phone here just a second, and I will read exactly what he wrote to you. But before I say that, I just want to say this. If this is your first time watching these videos, or if this is your first time on the channel here, I just want to say I typically don't dress like this in my videos, but honestly, I had a late start this morning. I was doing a bunch of research this morning. This hit the wire, and I was like, I got to talk about this right here. I'm going to throw on a hat, throw on a sweatshirt. So here I am, okay? All right, anyway, I have the date here. I'm going to read it to you, okay? So as you all know, we probably know this anyway, I'm blind, so I'm going to have my phone read it to me, and then I'm just going to read back to you exactly what my phone says. But the president just announced this again because of the tariff revenues. We've been talking about this for so long now, okay? The president continues to come back multiple times. This is now his fourth time this year since his inauguration that he has endorsed the distribution of money. Back in February, it was the $5,000 Doge dividend. In in August, it was the $600 rebate check, that one. And then in early October, he talked about a $1,000 to $2,000 payment. And now literally moments ago, he just wrote on Truth Social a $2,000+ stimulus check, or dividend he keeps calling it, for everybody except for high income people. Real thing. This is very exciting. And again, he wants to get the money out of the tariff revenues. That's where this money is going to come from. That's incredible. Seriously, let me read this to you here. as far as what he just said, what he posted, and then you can hear it for yourself, exactly what the president said about this. This is awesome, but seriously, I want to throw this out there super fast. About a month ago in early October, when he was out in that interview, in fact, I just had a video a couple days ago about it. I've had people reaching out saying, hey, can we hear the president saying this? So I literally just featured that clip again a couple days ago in a separate video so you could hear the president saying, but he said $1,000 to $2,000. In this Truth Social here that I'm going to read to you in a second, he's saying at least $2,000. At least? Really? That changed a lot. Going from $1,000 to $2,000 to now being at least $2,000 to everybody except for high-income people. Real thing. All right, let me read this to you. Okay, here we go. Again, here, just stick with me on this. I'm gonna have my phone read it to me, and then I'm gonna rehearse it back to you. Okay. All right, here we go. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. He just wrote this. Okay, the president just wrote that. Let me say it again. I know it's kind of weird. Sorry, I'm blind. I can't see it. I'm just reading it to you after what my phone is reading to me. Okay, hang on. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Not maybe. Notice he said will be paid to everyone. This is nuts. This is nuts, right? This is nuts. I mean, seriously. Okay. And again, I know that some people reach out in the comment section and say things like, oh, the president can say all he wants, but we need to see it. I'll believe it when I see it in my account. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. It's totally fine. But here's the deal. I've also been mentioning for quite a while now as well. I've mentioned this in videos recently. Okay. And, you know, I get all kinds of comments on it, but seriously, I've been pointing out multiple different catalysts that I've been pointing out between now and basically the next, call it year, not even years. And I keep saying, watch these. If any of these things happen, the distribution of stimulus becomes significantly higher if any of these actually happen. Well, one of them is, well, actually, I shouldn't say just one of them. I mean, there's multiple of them right now. But obviously the tariff situation, that's where he wants to get the money from. The midterm elections coming up, I mean, less than a year from right now. That's another major one right there. He keeps throwing out all these ideas. Again, this is the fourth time he has endorsed the distribution of money. And again, it could be called a stimulus, a rebate, a distribution, a dividend. Don't worry about what they call it. The name does not matter. Who cares? It's the distribution of money. They can call it a dividend, whatever they want. It does not matter. It's the distribution of money. And notice, he said to everyone except for high-income people. Okay, well, what's high-income people, right? So we'll have to figure that out. And again, to be fair with you, over the last several years here, when they have had stimulus checks distributed, they typically identify the income threshold. And again, I have no idea what the president is thinking here as far as what he's identifying as a high-income person, but I'm just going to say for reference purposes, the last several stimulus checks that we got back in 2020, 2021, the threshold was $75,000 as an individual or 150 grand as a married couple. Do most people earn less than that? Yes, absolutely. Most people earn way less than that, right? In fact, that included about 85% of the population, okay? Now, also, I know this was as well, a lot of you in this community that receive Social Security, DI, Survivor, Spousal, SSI, VA, RRB, low-income, fixed income, seniors, people with disabilities. I see this comment. Honestly, I wish I had a nickel for every time this comment. I see this comment all the time, which is, we're not going to get it because we don't file a tax return. It does not matter. Filing a tax return has nothing to do with getting this money. Nothing. Nada. All I want to say is this. Look at your income as a result of the threshold they put in the sand. Okay, the line in the sand that they put the threshold at, whatever that happens to be, 75 grand as an individual, 150 as a married couple, whatever it happens to be. All you need to look at is your income below the threshold? Who cares if you file a tax return? It does not matter if you are a senior, person with disabilities, living strictly on Social Security, SSI, anything like that. It does not matter whatsoever. All they look at is your income. The only thing that typically sets these off, as in offsets them, I meant to say, is typically if you owe money as in a liability to the federal government, as in tax, tax liability. They're not going to pay you something if you owe the federal government money. They're going to take it and they're going to keep it and they're going to offset your tax liability. Example, let's just say that you owe them $10,000 in back taxes. They're not going to give you $2,000. They're going to keep the $2,000 and offset your liability to them by $2,000. So then, therefore, the $10,000 that you owed them is now $8,000. Does that make sense? Okay. In some rare instances, if you owe back child support, the money would be garnished for that. There's some rare instances, but the vast majority of people are eligible for this. Okay. Obviously, we don't know any other details at this moment. The president literally just wrote this moments ago before I started this live stream. And this is what we're at. Okay. We don't know what he's thinking as far as income thresholds. We don't know what his definition is of a high income person. There's a lot of other factors here we still don't know the details about yet. But this is, again, the fourth time in literally the last 10 months that he has endorsed the distribution of money. Again, $5,000 back in February, the Doge dividend, the $600 rebate back in August, the $1,000 to $2,000 back in the beginning of October. I just highlighted the clip again a couple days ago because I've had people asking me about that from the interview he was out in. And now right here, right now, today, practically in, well, it's almost the middle of November already, right? Right here, right now, he just endorsed this. And again, wrote this on Truth Social literally moments ago. So there you go. Let me read this again to you right here, right now. If you're just joining the live stream right here, again, you might be thinking, like, why are you wearing a hat and a sweatshirt? I'm going to be honest with you. I've had a late morning today. I accidentally slept through my alarm, which, like, honestly never happens. And then I got up and I'm doing research all morning. This just came across and I was like, I don't have time to get ready. I'm going to throw a hat on and a sweatshirt and I'm doing a live stream right here. This is me raw. Haven't even had to shave. I haven't even had a chance to shave yet this morning, which is why I practically have a beard, right? Seriously, this is me like totally raw right here, right now. All right, anyway, let me read this again to you. Okay, so stop talking. Anyway, right here, right now, if you're joining live right here, I'm going to read exactly what the president just wrote on Truth Social this morning, moments ago, exactly what he said, and we can talk about it a little bit further. Okay, I'm going to read this to you word for word, what the president just wrote. Okay. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Okay, that's what the president just said. Literally just said that. Okay, where's he getting the money from? Tariffs. Remember, the tariffs are bringing in about $1 billion a day, and they have been. They're projecting to bring in about $350 billion a year going forward, or at least, for at least the next year or two. Obviously, it's going to continue to increase above that for the more time that we go on, but this is crazy, right? So, I mean, let's think of that, though. At least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people. Again, we don't know what he's going to consider as high-income people. Let's assume it's the same threshold as they had the last couple of years here, 75 grand as an individual, 150 as a married couple. Let's assume that. That's 85% of our population. Okay, we also don't know about dependents, right? Would dependents also get 2 grand? Would they get 600 like back in, a few years ago? When the first stimulus checks were rolled out, dependents got $600, right? So would dependents also get 2 grand? We don't know. We don't know that yet, okay? But let's just run some super simple math here. There's 334 million people in the country. What's 85% of that? Let me figure it out. 334 multiplied by 0.85.
334 times 0.85 is 283.9.
Okay. So let's call it 284 million people. Okay, just rounding purposes. 284 million times $2,000 a piece is 570 billion, if my math is right on that. 284 multiplied by 2.
284 times 2 is 568.
Oh, sorry, I was off by 2. $568 billion is what that would cost. I'm gonna be fair with you. That's a lot of money. That's more than.
Many think accidental leaks happen because of weak muscles, but what if it's something else? Most people don't know this, but those oops moments when sneezing, coughing, or laughing has little to do with having had children, age, or muscle control.
That's more than they're anticipating bringing in for like a year and a half worth of tariffs. Okay, that's a lot of money. So they might have to really shave this down, or they might have to kind of play around with these numbers a little bit. I don't know, but I'm just saying 568 billion is what that would cost if they sent it out to 85% of the population. $2,000 a piece, be a lot of money, right? 568 billion according to these rough numbers that is calculated. So wow. Okay. Anyway, if you're just jumping on right here, right now, let me read this to you again one more time. What the president just wrote on Truth Social this morning, calling on a $2,000+ dividend for everybody, excluding high-income people. This is exciting. All right. Anyway, let me read it to you again. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. That's what he just wrote. Okay, there you go. Everyone will be paid to everyone. I like the conviction behind this. Will be paid to everyone. Not maybe, not worth thinking about it, not might, but will be paid to everybody. I love that. That's great. Okay. Okay. Anyway, this just came across. I wanted to bring it to your attention immediately. I didn't have time to get all ready, stuff like that. I just thought I'm gonna jump on a live stream right here, right now. So this is me right here, right now, on a lazy Sunday morning at the moment. Like, I don't have any lazy days. I'm gonna be fair with you. I work 24/7, 7 days a week. Obviously, I'm doing research for all of you. I happen to have a lazy or a late start to this morning, and then this came across the wire, and here I am, raw. Okay. Anyway, I hope this helps you. I will certainly be back a little bit later with more information on this. But wanted to come back for you right here, right now, bring this information to you so you can see exactly what's going on. This is nuts. Drop your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. I know there's going to be a ton of questions on this. I will bring it to your attention immediately as we get more information. Hang on one second. I'm going to text my wife, Corey, have her help me. But anyway, stay tuned on this. I'm guessing we're going to get a whole lot more information on this. If you're just jumping on right here, right now, I've already done a couple little recaps, but just super fast while I wait for Corey to come in to help me out here, which is this. The president just posted on Truth Social this morning indicating the distribution of at least a $2,000 dividend payment for everybody except high-income people. Okay? Interesting stuff. So roll this live stream back a few minutes, watch from the beginning, watch the first like 10 minutes or whatever. I talked about it all there.
On this vote, the yeas are 60 and the nays are 40. 3/5 of the Senate duly chosen and sworn, having voted in the affirmative, the motion upon reconsideration is agreed to.
Bill at the desk and ask for its first reading.
Clerk will read the title of the bill for the first time.
S 3168, a bill to appropriate funds for pay and allowances of federal employees and so forth and for other purposes.
Mr. President, I now ask for a second reading. In order to place the bill on the calendar under the provisions of Rule 14, I object to my own request.
Objections heard. The bill will be read for a second time on the next legislative day.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Monday, November the 10th. Following the prayer and pledge, the general proceedings be approved today at the morning hour be deemed expired. The time for the two leaders be reserved for the use later in the day. And the Senate resume consideration of the motion to proceed to calendar number 168, H.R. 5371, post-cloture. Finally, that all time during recess, adjournment, morning business, and leader remarks count post-cloture on the motion to proceed.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it stand adjourned under the previous order.
Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.